Have you ever found yourself stuck in someone else's mess? The sailors on a ship tried everything, and they finally found the culprit behind the chaos, and now they're desperately looking for a way to end the crisis. However, is it possible that just maybe there's a message for them inside this mayhem? Let's find out in our deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. Well, I appreciate you all letting me spin the card. I'm kind of feeling like I'm rushing a little bit, but here's the good news, and I don't think I explained this very well. What I've done in our Biblical Hebrew audio course is I provide an audio episode, I provide a PDF with detailed information that goes into everything that I'm trying to share here. And again, we are limited by time, but what I really want to do is hopefully catch the attention of our friends who are at level 1 that are saying the Bible's deep, but they haven't never done anything with it. Or level 2, the people that say, I'm going to get a little wet, but they haven't really studied it. I already have our snorkelers, and hopefully our scuba divers are going to keep going on with us. Let's look at Jonah chapter 1, verse 10 in the NIV. It says this terrified them. What terrified them? The question that they asked, the answer that Jonah gave. And again, folks, if you get a chance to look at the written information, it's going to blow you away. This terrified them, and they said, or they asked, what have you done? ? Again, the NIV loves those question marks, and I'm not sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure that they're not in the Hebrew Bible. In fact, it's actually the opposite of the question. It's actually a statement. Then they put in parentheses, they knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. NIV inconsistency strikes again. Jonah chapter 1, verse 5. All the sailors were afraid. Vayireu hamelachim. Jonah chapter 1, verse 10. This terrified them. Now, here's the interesting thing. The same exact word is used in both verses, translated differently by the NIV. Were afraid versus this terrified them. Because of this translation decision, the readers of the NIV will miss something significant that Jonah, the author, is communicating in Hebrew. What Jonah said in 1:9 is hardwired to the response of the men, who are no longer sailors, by the way, according to the Hebrew Bible, in 1:10. 1:9 says this, Jonah said, I fear, from the 3-letter root, Yud, Resh, Aleph. In Jonah 1:10, Jonah, the author, says that the men feared, Yud, Resh, Aleph. And then Jonah, the author, throws in another fear, Yud, Resh, Aleph. What is interesting is that each of the fear words in Hebrew serve a different grammatical function. For those who are scuba diving with us, you will have already discovered this amazing way the Hebrew language shines in this verse. Here it is again. This terrified them, and I'm showing you on screen right now, from right to left, Vayireu ha'anashim yir'ah gedolah. Do you notice? The third word has the same root of the first word, Yud, Resh, and Aleph. What the NIV does is that because the NIV simply doesn't want to, I guess, maybe, I'm not sure what they're doing, but they're simply combining into one word, terrified, these two words. 3 Hebrew words are being translated into one English word. Do you see the 3-letter root, Yud, Resh, Aleph, in the first and third words? Now, I love the JPS commentary here. Here's what they say when it comes across this. By the way, did I tell you? I'm sharing with you some of the tools that I'm using. I'm using grammars, I'm using commentaries. I don't go to the commentaries until after I've studied the Hebrew text because I don't want to be influenced sometimes away from the text. But here's what the JPS commentary says. The intensification of their emotion expressed by this phrase, the internal accusative. This same phrase is used in 1:16, which we're going to get to, in an even more intense way. Now, again, This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" Now, that is an example, again, where they put a question mark, where really it's kind of like this. If those who have kids know this. You come into the kitchen, and one of your kids has taken the milk and spilled it on the head of the other kid, and you say to the kid, "What have you done?" You're not asking them, "What have you done?" You see what they've done. They poured milk on their brother. What you're saying is, "What have you done?" exclamation mark. You know what they've done. And an example is Genesis 4:10. Yehovah says to Cain, "What have you done?" Not with a question mark, but with an exclamation mark. He's not asking, he's charging him. Now again, then we have in this parentheses, they knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them so. This is an example, you guys, that I don't know. Let me give you a couple examples that you can look at. It's one of those rare occasions where we find out something from Jonah the author that we did not hear from Jonah the prophet or Jonah the person. Examples, flashbacks of this sort can also be found in Esther chapter 3, verse 4 and Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 9. Now, back to the Q&A on the deck. This revealing statement in parentheses in NIV from Jonah, the author, ties together the questions in verse 8, the answers in verse 9, and the response in verse 10. What have you done? The sailors now have the full picture. Now do you see why Jonah, the author, uses the internal accusative, a great fear? I can hear Jonah's confession and their eyes getting bigger and bigger. Occupation, what do? I'm a prophet. From where are you coming? Running away. And who are the people and where is your land? It is Yehovah, the God of our land and our people. The story is gaining clarity. Can you hear it? Can you see it? By looking at Hebrew. And again, I love this when I'm looking at my Hebrew Bible, but I also want to say something, and I want to give grace to the JPS. I want to give grace to the NIV. I'm not completely throwing them under the bus. In fact, I'm appreciative of them because what they allow me to do if I have both translations is to compare and contrast. As we move on, I want you to have two English translations. We've got our Hebrew Bible. If those of you that are going through the Biblical Hebrew audio course, you are now scuba diving with us, folks. This is really going to get interesting as we go forward. Now, again, this is a pilot series. I mean, I don't know if I can get these folks to keep doing this with me, but I got to tell you something. I believe that the message of Jonah is good today. I believe the message of Jonah, Jonah the prophet, Jonah the person. How many of you sometimes struggle with the God call that you have in your life, and yet you've got this human thing going on? This is humanity. This is what the Bible does. It brings to the forefront. It brings up on the surface that we are humans, but we have an amazing God that loves us so much, he's willing to be patient when we move from our prophetic position to the part of just being a good old-fashioned human. Let's keep studying in this deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. We have been working behind the scenes with the best producer you can imagine. Our producer has been working to make this as understandable as possible with the graphics and all of that, but we need you to participate with us. Like, comment, share, subscribe, push the bell icon, and let's keep studying in the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. Now, folks, because we're going to go through two verses, I'm still going to alternate between the NIV, the New International Version, and the JPS, the Jewish Publication Society. Now, I hope that you found at least two of your favorite translations to compare and to contrast. Jonah chapter 1, verse 11. They said to him, "What must we do to you to make the sea calm around us?" That's what it says in the JPS. Psalms 107:30, I want to share this. They rejoiced when all was quiet. Now, there's a word that they're using for quiet, and they're translating for quiet in the JPS, and he brought them to the port they desired. This is really interesting to me, because when I look in the JPS, it says, "What must we do to make the sea calm?" Yet the same word in Psalms 107, verse 30 is the word quiet. The JPS translates the same grammatical word as quiet in Psalms 107, verse 30. Why did they do that? Because the picture is this. The sea literally is yelling. It's making much noise. And what the Hebrew says is the sailors are saying, "Listen, Jonah, what do we need to do to quiet this storm?" Literally, how do we make it quiet? For the sea was growing more and more stormy. Now, we're going to take a little bit of time here, folks. Those of you that are out here with us on the scuba diving boat, you can sit here and have yourself a cup of lemonade. Scuba divers, I want you to jump in with me. Let's look at the words ki, hayam, holek, vesoer. Those are the four words. The last two, holech, vesoer, literally is saying this. The sea was walking and storming. Jonah, the author, uses this phrase twice in this book. This is a great opportunity for word study. There is one other time in the Hebrew Bible where the exact same word, holech, is used with another, what is called a participle, but don't worry about that gives the same sort of meaning of increase/repetition. Proverbs chapter 4:18. The path of the righteous is like radiant sunlight, ever brightening until noon. That's the JPS. But the Hebrew that they're looking at is holech va'or. Vayehi or, let light be. The word light, literally instead of ever brightening, it is holech. It's moving and it's lighting. That's literally what they're looking at there. Here's what I want to do. I want to move on to the Lost in Translation, if I can, Jonah chapter 1, verses 10 and 11. Here's what it says in the KJV, the Keith Johnson version. Then the men feared with a great fear. And why am I saying this is this technical term, the internal accusative? This is what's happening. It's a great fear. In other words, the NIV says they're terrified. No. The men feared with a great fear. And they said to him, "What is this you have done?" ! For the men knew that from the presence of Yehovah he was fleeing because he told them. Verse 11. Then they said to him, "What should we do to you so that the sea might quiet from upon us?" For the sea was going and storming. This is an example where when I look at this verse and I'm translating this, I'm taking again a number of things. I'm looking at the Hebrew, which I have. I'm checking to see if there's any grammatical issues. I'm checking to see if there are any lexical issues in terms of how the word is being used. And one of the things I just have to say, and I want to be really clear and I want to be sensitive about this. There are people who have gone through the first 7 episodes of our free lessons on the Biblical Hebrew audio course where they've learned to pronounce Hebrew. But there's something you've got to go a little bit deeper if you want to get to the meaning. You got to know how Hebrew works. And in order to know how Hebrew works, you can't use the Strong's Concordance. Now, here's where I'm going to get in trouble, I'm sure. Someone's going to say to me, the Strong's Concordance says this. The problem with the Strong's Concordance is it is a concordance. It tells you where words are used in the Bible. It doesn't tell you the meaning of the word. Now, again, I want to be sensitive. Folks, the good news is this. I'm not going to leave you without the tools. We now have the tools, information is increasing, where we can not only understand how to say the word, we can understand what the word means. Now, here's what is really exciting about this. When you're looking at the Hebrew Bible and you see the words holech, vesoer, you know that the word holech means it's moving, it's growing, and you get a picture of what that's like if you've ever been to the ocean during a storm. I mean, it is literally walking, it's moving, it's loud. There's a lot that's going on with the ocean, and you've got these sailors that are on this ship that has been commandeered by heaven. And it says that earlier, I told you the verse that says that the ship itself even thought to break up. In other words, this is not some little small storm. This is a great storm. And what these men have now decided is they're fearing a great fear. It started in 1:5 that they were afraid and they called to their gods. Now it says they feared a great fear. Why? Because they heard who is behind the storm. The man Jonah, he's the prophet. He's running. But who is the God that's chasing him? Now they're going to have that encounter with him. So again, this is a great opportunity for us to slow down. The men feared with a great fear. And they said to him, "What is this you have done?" For the men knew that from the presence of Yehovah he was fleeing because he told them. Then they said to him the important question, "What should we do to you so that the sea might quiet from upon us?" For the sea was going and storming. In other words, this thing was continuing to grow. It was continuing to get bigger. The waves were going, the water, the wind, the waves, it was all happening. You have these men all communicating, asking questions at the same time. Maybe there was a little bit of a language issue, but can you imagine what was happening on the deck of that ship? These men are saying we're in the midst of this chaos. You're the reason for it, and we've got to get out. Now, let's keep studying. Hey, folks, I found this when I actually taped the promo for this series. It's a shark tooth. We are taking territory, and we're going to do that with your help. We need you to like. We need you to comment. We need you to share. Embed it on your website if you like. Let's keep sending this message around the world about the deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah. Would you allow me to slow down just a little bit, folks? I want to go back for a second to verse 8, but I don't want to go back in terms of explaining it. I want to show you something that I've actually done to help you understand it for yourself. In that episode, I had verse 8 and verse 9, and there was so much information. I spent literally hours going over this information with my dear friend, Dr. Moster. We went through word by word, and I realized something. Then in verse 8, if you go word by word, there's an opportunity for you to learn how Hebrew works. And so here's one of the things I did. In our Biblical Hebrew audio course, Level 2, the Level 2 is available behind the Premium Content Library. I've already given you what that offer is. You get 7 days free. Folks, go and take advantage of it. If you don't like it, you cancel, no problem. It's $9.99. I might be talking about this 10 years from now. It's still $9.99 a month or $99 a year. And I decided it will never change. This is as much as they can get out of me. Okay, I can't make it free, but I'm making it as cheap as possible. Here's what, and by the way, when that $9.99, that doesn't only give you the Biblical Hebrew audio course, it gives you some 200 audio, video, and written presentations of information, inspiration, and revelation. But here's one of the things I do in Level 2. Which is regarding this section. So I go through each of the words and I give you what I call a way to answer 5 important questions. And I use the hand as a way that you can do this. So with Hebrew, what you do is you learn, first of all, the thumb is the form of the word as it is written in the biblical text. The pointer finger is the root of the word. There's usually 3 letters. That's the root. And this is really important in biblical Hebrew. Most all of the Hebrew words have a 3-letter root. The middle finger is what comes before the root. That's like the prefix. The ring finger is what comes after the root. That's like the suffix. And then the pinky finger is the function of the word. Now, here's what I did that kind of excites me, is I actually took my time, and I think we gave, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, oh my goodness, 9, I don't remember how many it was, a bunch of lessons just on the first verse, which is verse 8. Then what we do is we go on to verse 9, verse 10, verse 11, verse 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, and that completes in the Hebrew Bible, chapter 1. What it's going to allow you to do is to slow down and to learn each word. Now, again, imagine this. The creator of the universe decided that he wasn't going to use Spanish as the original language. He decided he wasn't going to use French as the original language. I got to give you a secret. He didn't even use English as the original language. He decided to use this language called biblical, this Hebrew that goes from right to left. But it is so powerful, this language, what it does, how it communicates, the depth of the Hebrew language. He picked this. Now, here's what's exciting. You not only get to learn how to pronounce the words literally after first 7 lessons. I have people go through 2 or 3 lessons and they're already reading, Vayehi Devar Yehovah El Yonah. They're reading and they're able to actually proclaim the Hebrew. But what's exciting is to go behind those words and to learn exactly what they mean. So again, what I've decided to do is make Level 2 available to everyone, 7 days free. If you decide to do it, to stay with us, you're going to be able to have access to Level 2. Now, here's what really excites me. I actually have created a Level 3 Biblical Hebrew audio course. But what I love about Level 3 is it lets us get to the place of writing your own application commentary. So, first of all, 1 through 7, pronunciation. The next level gives you explanation, translation, and then also application. And I tell you something, when you get to the application part, it is so powerful. It is so exciting. I am really, really, really encouraged. I've gone to the other biblical Hebrew experts out there. I've had them check it. We've had people go through the course, and we're getting huge just blessings of reviews of how this is helping people for their Bible to become that biblical foundation that we are committed to. Again, our mission is to inspire people around the world to build a biblical foundation for their faith. What better way to do that than to give them access to the language, the history, and the context of the best-selling book in all of history? But we don't want that book up on a shelf. We don't want that book on our bedstand. We don't want it in our bathroom. We want that book to be in front of us so we can crack it, open it, and encounter the God of His Word. And that is what we're making available to you. So please take advantage of the offer that yours truly, Keith Johnson, is giving you right now.
Visit bfainternational.com today and join our online academy for free. You'll get immediate access to start watching all of Keith Johnson's latest programs, including the Time Will Tell series, Rediscovering God's Clock from Israel and Beyond, the Now is the Time miniseries, based in New York City and Washington, D.C., The Road to Reformation, a 10-step study for biblical reformation, the Open Door series, 18 hours of exciting teaching from a national speaking tour, His Hallowed Name, a series on God's name that was banned from TV. Also, hear directly from Keith Johnson through weekly personal blog updates. Why delay? Visit bfainternational.com right now. Then click the Enter the Academy button. Visit us today.
Hey, you're back. I love it, you all. I got to tell you something. I mean, can you imagine you're those sailors and you're just on your way doing what you're doing, and all of a sudden you pick up this guy. Was he a stowaway? Was it a deal that he made with the captain? We don't know. But somehow, some way, you have been stuck in the middle of that mess. And as a result, the sailors have asked all the questions that they can ask. Now they've gotten to the place where it's decision time. And I'll tell you something, folks. That's not unlike what happens with us. Have you ever been in a situation, literally, where you found yourself in the middle of someone else's mess and you're afraid to ask the questions because you're afraid of what the answer might be? These sailors were desperate. They had come to the place where they realized that they were not having an encounter with one of those false gods that they were worshiping. In fact, I actually wonder, earlier in chapter 1, it says that they threw over all of the things, their baggage, their weapons, their utensils. I wonder if it's possible that when they were crying out to their false god, it says, maybe that's when they also took those false idols that they had. And certainly that we know that the Phoenician pagan sailors, they had their idols. Is it possible that maybe they had gotten rid of those idols? And maybe that's like thinking about they got rid of the baggage. They're now at a place where they've gotten rid of the baggage. They've asked the questions. They've got the answers. And now there's about to be that encounter. They've asked the prophet Jonah now, what should we do? And I absolutely love what Jonah does next. He does something that I think is really something that's a template for all of us. Jonah gets to the place where he determines that it is time to stop running. He decides it's time to surrender. It's time to come clean. And you know, that might be just where you are right now. When God uses situations like He's using in this book with those people, it is an opportunity to come clean with the Creator of the universe. And maybe that is the invitation for you through this deep dive Bible study into the book of Jonah.